The young lady from the Tang family, who was born weak and sent to the Taoist temple for 5 years, was brought back. Everyone had their own thoughts in mind, intending to welcome the delicate and sickly little girl, but they couldn't help but want to see a shiny little bald head. Still following them like a little tail all day, saying that their lives are not long. At first, the Tang family resisted this. Even if it wasn't a cute and obedient little person, they shouldn't be talking nonsense about being a little god. Later, when the little girl turned the bad guys into anger and was about to take action, everyone exclaimed in surprise. She held a small brush in one hand and a small powder fist in the other, in order to subdue others with virtue, for them. The Tang family, who are gradually eating soft food, are really fragrant. The Rome family of a wealthy family has been passed down for a century. It is rumored that there is a noble young master in this deep mansion, dressed in Tang dynasty attire and with Buddhist beads wrapped around his wrist, which everyone is afraid of. One day, under the pear tree in the courtyard, there was a pile of plush thread on the knee of the boy who had always been calm, wise, and close to demons. Jinwei is puzzled. This young master doesn't touch the spring water with his 10 fingers. Just listen to this warm voice asking. I've been thinking about it for a while. Do you think wearing a pink hat or a colorful one looks good today? Guard. Rongqing knew from a young age that he was different from others. He was too fierce, and monsters always wanted to get close. Until she met Tang Jin holding a small brush and hammering the demon on the ground, the monsters fled everywhere, and she still remembered the endless sea of suffering and turned back to shore. Later, Rongqing touched the other person's bald head and smiled as he pulled her hand, saying, "How are you doing now, brother Du?" For the sake of your good looks, Xiaonai let someone hold her hand and said with a soft and reserved tone, "Sure." Keywords of the novel. Xuanmen Group Pet Boss 5-year-old Milk Huhu no pop-ups. Xuanmen Group Pet Boss 5-year-old Milk Huhu Complete Collection Download. Xuanmen Group Pet Boss 5-year-old Milk Huhu Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Don't learn blindly, everything is deceptive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Don't learn blindly, everything is deceptive. The moon is covered by dark clouds, and the night is extremely deep. The man's rough panting was accompanied by messy footsteps, and the flashlight's lights flickered wildly. The fire exits don't even have indicator lights on, and wherever you step on them, dirty and damp water splashes up. Darkness spreads everywhere, filled with despair. Dida. Dida. The originally dry ceiling seemed to have opened a spring, casting a splash of blood and water. Let's play together. In the pitch-black corridor, there came a mixture of laughter and crying. The man followed the sound and the flashlight lit up directly above, revealing a pale woman's face with red lips cracked to the base of his ear. Help, help. Ghosts. A pale hand rose from the ground and grabbed the man's ankle in an instant. Dragging 3 meters away, the man twitched on the ground, his throat making a gurgling sound, and his 7 orifices flowing, as if he was about to drown in the water. At this moment, suddenly, a bright light appeared in front of him. The man took a breath and looked ahead, unaware that in such a deep night, the surroundings were closed and there was no exit. Where could there be any light? In a daze of consciousness, a round moon gets closer and closer. Didn't you tell the employer not to send anyone on duty tonight? What followed was a sweet and soft little milk sound. The man's mind was taken aback, and a small black shadow appeared in the backlight. Is it a child? Her footsteps were steady and slow, accompanied by the quiet sound of water. Da. 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 The safety exit indicator light flickered a few times and lit up, with green light shining on her side face. Her delicate doll-like face, curled and slender eyelashes, and slightly pouted lips. A pair of pitch-black cat eyes were staring behind him, and the man finally saw clearly that the full moon was actually her head. It's a shiny little bald head. It's against the light. In an instant, the constraint on his neck was released, and a gust of wind ran from behind. The security guard slid onto the ground, staring blankly at the little girl standing in front of him. She is human, a child wearing a gray Taoist uniform with repair marks on it. Uncle, don't be afraid. Follow me and there won't be anything wrong. She only had time to say a word, holding a brush in her hand and chasing after it with her foot raised. Something in the water suddenly jumped up, accompanied by the woman's screams, and the dust on the child's hand swung downwards. The bright red and sticky living thing twisted in a twist and shrunk in an instant, and was firmly fastened by the little girl with a missing porcelain bowl. The little girl's voice was very fierce. Make you disobedient and want to play. I'll play with you. Immediately after, a few people hurriedly ran over to the end of the corridor, who were the leaders of this community. Little fairy, can the problem be solved? The clouds have dissipated, and at this moment, the moonlight outside the window is bright. The security guard collapsed, gasping for breath. The little girl, who was only 4 or 5 years old, shook her head honestly and said, no. Ah. When the Qingshan Taoist arrived with the people, the little girl was holding a bowl of water to explain to the several people who were frightened by her. The feng shui you have chosen for your new property is good, backed by Fushan and with abundant financial resources. However, this good feng shui can also nourish the spirits and monsters. This is the water demon in the lake of the community, which recuperates and thrives here. If you built a house, it wouldn't have had much impact on it. However, your greenery blocked the sky and the sun, and the high walls stood up to block the passage. It was only then that you retaliated against the people who came here. Those strange things happened, but fortunately, those who discovered them didn't die long ago. How can it be broken? It's quite simple. Surrounding the lake with a wall and turning it into a small park, pouring this bowl of water back into the lake not only resolves the mystery, but also attracts wealth and treasures. Thank you, little fairy, thank you, little fairy. The group breathed a sigh of relief. The little girl turned her head and hugged her little brush, blinking her round cat pupils before seeing her master standing behind him with someone, his eyes still slightly red. Master. The old man with a green robe and white beard coughed lightly, and raised his hand to stroke his beard with Feng Xiandao's bone. Tang Jin, come here. Tang Jin tilted her head and her little hand vigorously pulled something out of her pocket. Without touching it, she twisted her small face and glanced at the bowl in her hand. Simply slapping the bowl neatly onto my bare head, it was full of water but not a drop fell. Tang Jin. Qingshan Taoist nervously glanced at the man in a suit beside him, whose face was gradually turning black. Tang Jin had just freed his hands to search for something together, and upon hearing this, he even asked him to wait. I don't have enough hands, ah. I found it. Left digging, right digging, Tang Jin took out a weathered bank card from his pocket that looked full of stories and handed it to Qingshan Taoist. Master, you don't have money to eat again. You have money today, don't cry, don't cry. I've already said that, Master, you should leave gaps in your hands and not be frugal. You can only drink the wind in the southeast, northwest, and northwest. Qingshan Taoist. Tang only saw a tall man standing next to the Qingshan Taoist today. The man has a pair of deep and dark eyes like ink pools, a dark comb behind his hair, and a clear and handsome facial contour. Even in old age, he has a unique aura of power that young people do not possess. At this moment, his expression was slightly subtle, staring at Tang Jin, who was taller than his thighs. Tang Jin looked at his face and turned his head to ask Qingshan Taoist, are you a major customer here to settle the bill? Taoist Qingshan was about to introduce himself when he saw Tang Jinli take out his mobile phone and directly open the Alipay collection code, 2 million, thank you very much for your patronage. Tang Chuang's face at this moment was no different from that of a water demon possessed. Looking at the little milk ball in front of him, he felt that she had a similar charm to the river and lake fraudster on the overpass who was trying to calculate a divination for you. He's still a big boss. Tang Jin took down the bowl again and handed it to the person in charge, who helped the security guard to the side. He looked up closely and said, "It's strange. His face is foggy and he can't see it clearly. There may be a big change in the near future. Do you still have any worries to come to our Sanqing temple to solve?" The man crouched down, smiled, took a bite of his white teeth, and poked the soft cheek of the little girl. "I have a bit of a problem now that I need to solve, Taoist Qingshan," he said. "For example, how did my little daughter, who was sent to Qingshan Taoist temple to take care of her body, be trained into a little god? Miss Tang from the Tang family, who is half a year old, weak and sickly, has been going to multiple hospitals without success. She looks like she won't be able to survive, so she meets a person and says this method with just one glance. Unable to bear it, the Tang family can only send Tang Jin to the Sanqing Taoist hall. But now the old man at home is not in good health, thinking that the agreed time is around, and wanting to take a few more glances before coming to pick him up. And now, Qingshan Taoist." Tang Jin suddenly realized. The facial expressions and techniques are the most blurred for oneself. The closer one is, the greater the influence, no wonder they cannot see clearly. Qingshan Taoist. Is it time to study this now? So you're my dad. The sounds of those Tang and Jin characters are clear and soft. A decrease in Tang Chuang's anger. She looked at Tang Chuang's face and raised her hand to calculate. Not good, the house is restless, there are difficulties in the near future. The little one wearing a Taoist robe nodded earnestly. The 5-year-old child, however, did not recognize him at all. He raised his hand and grabbed Tang Chuang's hand, soft and sticky, like a little adult. "Master, then I'll go home with my dad." Qingshan Taoist let out a light cough. As expected, he nodded with red eyes. Tang Chuang came this time to take Tang Jin, who was being fostered in the Taoist temple, away. He had planned to tell his disciple a few more words, but he also had an extra bank card in his hand. "This is a few years ago when I drew a sword to help and saved up the good money. I have to go home now, but senior brother Chang'an is not here, so I have to hand it over to my master for safekeeping." Xiao Nai is counting with her fingers on end. These funds should be enough to repair the leaking roof of the Taoist temple, repair the small path on the mountain, and buy some good Taoist costumes for the senior brothers. They are all donations, so there shouldn't be any more accidents. The Qingshan Taoist listened to Tang Jin's serious explanation and swallowed all his words in Tang Chuang's skeptical eyes. "How did I know that I sent my daughter up the mountain to work at the Taoist temple and provide support for her family? The Tang family should have given a lot of support, right? Let's not talk about such a sad thing as leaking money. So goodbye, master, I will miss you." The child looked at his new owner and said, "Dad, let's go." When Qingshan Taoist realized that he wanted to give Nai Tuanzi a loving hug, he saw that she had already walked away holding Tang Chuang's hand. This time, it is estimated that Tang Chuang also came in a hurry. He took Tang Jin on a private plane in the middle of the night and returned to the Tang family in Chengdu. Tang Jin took a plane for the first time and had not even had time to change his clothes. With long curly eyelashes, he sat obediently and looked out the window like a quiet little cat. She was not curious or afraid, looking obedient and sensible, making people want to rub her bare little head. You can't blindly learn from those people, they are all scams. Tang Chuang used the gentlest voice of his life, trying to reason. There are also many feng shui masters in the divine city, but most people come to them for peace of mind. Tang Chuang, too, does not believe it in his heart. "Dad, if you don't believe me, why don't you let me take a closer look at you?" "I'm particularly reliable," said Xiao Bujian, blinking her big cat eyes. Tang almost patted his chest to ensure. I really stood up and took Tang Chuang's hand. Tang Chuang let her soft little hand come up and chuckled. "In this era, why do you still believe in fortune-telling?" End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Go to the hospital and have a look at your brain. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 2. Go to the hospital and have a look at your brain. It is not easy to count those who are too close to their own blood relationship. Parents are the first, brothers and sisters are the second, and other restrictions are small. However, for a feng shui mystic of Tang Jin's level, facial features combined with palmistry are also sufficient for relatives. Tang Jin frowned and spoke in a soft, worried voice, "Dad, you've been having some business troubles lately and always getting angry with your subordinates. The elderly at home are sick, so it should be my grandfather. That's also why you took me back. Grandpa's situation may be gradually deteriorating, and I'm thinking about seeing her." Tang Chuang had a meal. From meeting to picking up, Tang Jin is different from other 5-year-old babies in his family. He doesn't cry or make a fuss, and has a super strong ability to accept things. I followed him directly without explaining too much, leaving him speechless. If you recognize him, it could be someone like Qing Shan Taoist who showed her photos. So, if the old man is sick and Qing Shan Taoist doesn't know, where did she know? Then Xiaonai looked up and took it seriously. "Dad, you can't be angry now. The mountain root is broken and the disease is on your head. Tomorrow, I'll accompany you to the hospital to have your head checked." Tang Chuang. We cannot shy away from medical treatment. It's a bit mysterious. Tang Chuang didn't want to believe it in his heart. But indeed, the Tang family has had some bad luck lately. The old man fell and his energy was not good. The Tang family's project also had some problems. Everyone was busy with their own tasks, and he had not had a physical examination for a while. Upon closer examination, he did occasionally feel dizzy. However, it was very mild, and he didn't take it seriously either. He only thought he was getting older and couldn't endure it as well as when he was young. It can't really be. Tang Chuang pondered for a bit long. "Dad, don't be afraid, be brave, you're a man," said Xiaonai as she took his hand and patted him gently, aligning her gaze with his. "It's not necessary." Without saying anything, she tilted her head and said, "Do you want an encouraging kiss?" Tang Chuang. Cough. On the other end. The Tang family's old mansion. It's already dawn. A while ago, the old man celebrated his 75th birthday. At that time, the work of the Tang family was either completed ahead of schedule or pushed back. It's currently busy. The old man has been taking good care of himself since he fell. It's too early and he hasn't woken up yet. In the living room, Tang Micheng, the youngest son of the second-bedroom family, is playing games. He is 9 years old and has been raised by his family as a chubby boy. He rarely takes a vacation in elementary school and has already arranged to go to the game hall with his classmates. Sitting on the sofa was his cousin Wei Han. Since Tang Jin was taken away, the second wife of the family has brought her over to soothe the emotions of the younger brothers who had their sister taken away. Although she did not live directly with the Tang family, she clearly regarded herself as half of the Tang family. Wearing a chiffon dress and a slender waist, the 14-year-old girl had learned how to make up and dress up. With a smile on her lips, she casually said, "Uncle seems to be taking Tang Jinmei home today." Dai Bei. Tang Micheng pinched the handle and snorted, "Anyway, I won't talk to her." His mother told him that this sister came back to rob him from Grandpa. Let him welcome Tang Jin, don't even think about it. My younger sister is also very pitiful today. She was sent to that remote rural area because she was weak and sickly when she was a child. Now her mind has greatly changed. She has just come down from the mountain and has no vision. When she arrives at kindergarten, she will also be ridiculed by the children. You are the older brother, you have to let my younger sister go. Why did I let her go to the Taoist temple? Did I force her? Wei Han chuckled lightly and said, all right, I won't tell you about these annoying things. I'm going out and there's a reunion with my classmates tonight, so I won't come over. I'll bring you a cake tomorrow. Okay. This set was very useful for Tang Micheng. He turned his head to respond, but saw that Wei Yihan had just walked to the door when a shiny light bulb appeared. Wei Yihan was also taken aback for a moment. He saw the little bald head first before meeting Tang Chuang's gaze. The shiny little bald head and rustic Taoist attire made her unable to resist a hint of mockery in her eyes. She lowered her gaze and smiled before saying, "Uncle, is this my younger sister today?" Tang Jin heard the sound and raised his small head, with beautiful cat pupils and curly eyelashes, inheriting all the advantages of his parents. Although he was led away, he yawned slightly when he looked up, clearly drowsy. The two looked at each other, and Tang Jin blinked his eyes. Tang Chuang is usually busy and has a bad temper. He has never had much interaction with Wei Yihan and has not replied. He only crouched down and carried the sleepy little boy into his arms, yawning incessantly. Her soft little hand wrapped around his neck, her little head resting on his neck socket, and she spoke only when she was far away from him. "Dad, try to walk around her as much as possible in the future." Tang Jin can recognize people by their appearance, but if others don't provoke her, she doesn't have the intention to say anything in front of them. Her appearance may be dangerous, but cause and effect are predetermined. She reminds her that whether she can avoid it or not depends on herself. She has a broad and full forehead, and has a thriving social circle. She eats moles at the corners of her lips, is good at cooking, and has a diverse demeanor. Her eyebrows and eyes are extremely prominent, and her marriage is uncertain. She wants to step on the path of a noble person and rise step by step. "Dad, be smart, we won't be that noble person." Sleeping restlessly on the plane, the little bun was yawning and panting. The small voice made people's hearts melt. The little brat spoke quite mysteriously, and Tang Chuang was already skeptical of her because of a part of what she said. However, when he heard this, he didn't say it clearly, but he remembered it in his heart. "All right, go to sleep. When I wake up, I'll take you to see your grandfather." The little girl responded softly, her eyes already drowsy. Passing by the living room, Tang Micheng was still playing games. He was so used to being lawless that Tang Chuang didn't usually see him. When he saw the small light bulb in Tang Chuang's arms, Tang Micheng didn't even look back and didn't want to see him. Tang Chuang held Tang Jin and walked straight towards the bedroom, only to hear Tang Jin continue to murmur, "Dad, isn't that big porcelain bottle in the middle of the living room just recently put on?" That was sent by a feng shui master who was highly sought after by many people on the old man's birthday 2 months ago. The old man also trusted him very much and put it up according to the feng shui master's requirements at that time. "Is there a problem?" Tang Chuang raised his eyebrows. If one's youngest daughter really has some expertise in metaphysics and can see something, then that feng shui master, the good things in the location are right. It's better to suppress things in the house, but the timing is not right. If there are bad things at home that make Grandpa sick, they should also be kept in the house. Grandpa's illness has always been bad, so it's best to have someone move them to the north window. My big eyes have already closed, and my speech is wilted and low. Tang Xuanmen couldn't help but feel a gentle smile on his face, which was always somewhat serious and impatient. "Well, just play games with my little daughter." Tang Chuang arranged for someone to move the large porcelain vase from the living room and hold Tang Jin back to the room to rest. A little one, lying soft on the bed, flipped over. Tang Chuang wanted to hold her deeper, but he heard her murmur in his sleep, "We need to take Dad to the hospital." Go to the hospital to see his head. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Don't go home after 8 o'clock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Don't go home after 8 o'clock, wake up, about to wake up. She looks so polite. Ouch, this little face is so pink, how did you go to the Taoist temple and even shave your head? This is a combination of Buddhism and Taoism that suppresses life. Shoo, keep your voice down. The last solemn and elderly voice stopped the words of a few people. The little milk bun lying in bed was half asleep and half awake, rubbing her eyes and opening them. She was cold and confused as she met the gaze of someone else. It should be noon now, with the curtains drawn, so the room was a bit dim. Tang Jin was still sleeping in a daze, propping up his small body and blinking curiously as he looked at the group of people suddenly emerging from the door. A soft little milk ball, looking at it makes people feel good. In front of me was an old man with graying hair, looking inside with a group of servants, smiling with his aunt. Tang Jin regained his senses and looked at the green and black aura spreading from the old man's forehead to the people in front of him, knowing that this should be his sick grandfather. Before Tang Fengfu, the old man of Tang, could speak up, Tang would now call out crudely. "Grandpa! Hey, Grandpa's good baby, let Grandpa hug you quickly. Grandpa wants to die today." The usually serious old man's eyes were almost out of sight when he smiled. The little one looked too well behaved and too soft, and now he was sleeping with a pink and delicate face. Boys and girls are just different. Think about your 3 stinky kids, and then think about your 6 grandsons. How do you like this only unique seedling? What's wrong with the bald guy? We are the cutest little bald ones. Embrace the soft little baby in your arms. The old man is extremely rare, which is strange to say. When he woke up this morning, his body became much lighter and his spirit improved. He only found out after breakfast that his granddaughter had been picked up and was sleeping upstairs. Have you slept enough? Shall we go down for lunch? Tang Jin nodded with a smile. At the dining table, the old man had a pretty good appetite today. He used half a bowl of rice before realizing that there was something wrong in the living room. What about the large porcelain vase? The old man frowned. For that feng shui master, the old man also received some guidance and made his family business bigger, which gave him some trust. I asked Dad to find someone to move away. Tang Jin was eating earnestly while holding a bowl, and when it came to his professional field, he quickly looked up from his bowl and spoke up. Moving away would be better for Grandpa's health. Does Grandpa feel much more comfortable now? In the past few months, the negative effects of being confined in the house on Grandpa have slowly dissipated. Although the source has not been resolved yet, the effect can be seen throughout the morning. Baby granddaughter asked to move it. Then move away, move away. He had already felt that it was there. What should he do if someone accidentally hit and injured someone, but he didn't take Tang Jin's words to heart? Isn't that right? Seeing today, Grandpa has eaten half of his bowl of rice all at once. That's because the doctor's treatment is effective. On the stairs, Tang Micheng ran down with a thud and glanced at the small bald head, who had already changed into an ordinary nightgown. He was stunned by the large and round cat eyes and then lightly curled his lips. Don't suddenly attribute the doctor's credit to others, it's disrespectful to the doctor. Young master, hurry up and have a meal. Tang Micheng snorted and pulled open the chair opposite Tang Jin to sit down, making a lot of noise. But after looking at him, Tang Jin seemed to be like he wasn't there, focused on pickpockets, and couldn't see his dissatisfaction. The old man frowned and said, "What are the rules for eating?" Tang Micheng paused for a moment, just about to speak, but the old man didn't look at him either. He picked up a chopstick of food for Tang Jin, with a smiling expression on his face, indicating that he really liked this granddaughter. He closed his mouth again and sat down quietly to eat. He knew that his grandfather was particularly fond of Tang Jin because she was his only granddaughter. Even though his cousin had grown up in the Tang family since childhood, they were all girls and treated his grandfather well. Why did his cousin have to be cautious in the Tang family? Perhaps Tang Jin was already not pleasing to the eye, and it is rare for his grandfather to relax and spoil like this, attributing all the problems to Tang Jin. Tang Jin is a girl, and he does not associate himself with it, so he uses his cousin to express his malice towards Tang Jin. Tang Jin tried his best to finish all the food in his bowl, his stomach was a bit round, and he let out a small burp. He covered his mouth and noticed that Tang Miqing's fleshy face was full of malice. This cousin doesn't like her. Tang Jin leaned comfortably against a small high stool and picked up his meal, ignoring it. There are so many people who dislike her, whether it's those bad guys or colleagues. Tang Jin has dealt with even stronger malice. This cousin's malice is at most a child's jealousy. I'm not angry with ignorant people today. Tang Jin let out a soft snort and continued to pick up rice. Tang Miqing picked up the chopsticks from the bowl and still couldn't help but feel like someone was scolding him just now. By the time I looked at Tang Jin, this little darling had already crawled into the old man's arms, looking up and making a sound of milk and milk. Butler Grandpa, can I give Dad a call? Dad has a brain problem and needs to go to the hospital for a check. Up as soon as possible. Housekeeper Grandpa. What's wrong with your brain? But Tang Miqing ate halfway through the meal and saw that Tang had lost his appetite. He could see that this sister was not only annoying, but also a talker. Simply hold the skateboard directly and prepare to go out, and contact several friends who have been arranged and start roast with their mobile phones. Chingu heard that your sister has returned. Don't tell me about her. As soon as she comes back, the whole family can't see anyone else in their eyes. They haven't even waited for me to come down for dinner, it's annoying her. Brother. Tang Miqing had just uttered these words when the sweet little girl's voice behind him made him tremble, and he felt inexplicably guilty in front of those big cat pupils. With his phone behind his back, Tang Miqing angrily said, "What are you doing? Go up to the side, I don't have time to coax the child. I just want to remind you to come back early at night, no later than 8 o'clock, and don't take the overpass when you come back." Tang Jin was only half his height in front of a 9-year-old boy. Staring at his face and speaking, even though his voice was sweet and obedient, this content made people inexplicably feel cold. Those who learn the divine and spiritual ways are crazy. Xiao Budian had already walked up to him, and the chubby boy reached out to block him, quickly pushing open the door and walking outside. Tang Jin didn't care and waved at him, "If you have anything, try to run home. Goodbye, brother." The cat's eyes blinked, and Tang Jin looked at Tang Miqing's chubby figure with a hint of darkness behind him. His tone seemed troubled, but his smile was super sweet. Don't be a self-proclaimed smart type. Tang Miqing was sliding on his skateboard onto the main road, holding his phone and sending messages to his friends with a bad expression on his face. Didn't my younger sister go to the Taoist temple? She learned the divine Tao and even asked me to go home before 8 o'clock. Just kidding, the evening activities end at 8:30. She's really sick. I'm going, should I be so evil? Your sister is really from the countryside, she has been heavily influenced by feudal ideology. The sound of the 7 o'clock clock in the game hall rang, and Tang Miqing felt inexplicably restless. Not long after, he stood up. Chinga, don't you see the new game released and you're going back now? What time is it? Brother Cheng, you won't be back before 8 because your sister said she wants you to go back before 8 o'clock, right? Tang Miqing raised his hand and patted off the hands held by these people. He couldn't explain what was going on, but felt a bit uneasy in his heart. He decided to go back early, but said he was listening to Tang Jin's words. What am I listening to her do? It's not that she's sick. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 8.00. 0.5 points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 8.00. 0.5 points. I have to go to school tomorrow, go early. I don't want to have breakfast with her. Tang Miqing came out of the game hall. Looking down at the phone. 7:30. The driver has been waiting in the opposite parking lot. When the time comes, take him to the entrance of the community. It should be no problem for the community to arrive before 8 o'clock. He walked forward, looking at the flowing lane, then glanced at the side and suddenly trembled. There is an overpass on the road, with no one on it and white street lights on. After Tang Jin said that to him, the most ordinary scene of the past seemed to be shrouded in a shadow. Shit. Tang Micheng cursed, thinking about what he cared about her. He took 2 steps towards the overpass, but the invisible psychological pressure eventually made him stop and take a detour. The security of the community where Tang's mansion is located is tight, and it is already very late. The driver escorted Tang Micheng to the entrance of the community. Tang Micheng stepped on his skateboard and slid all the way to the Tang family mansion. The skateboard under his feet seemed to be unable to withstand his weight, occasionally making a creaking sound or two. No one on the road, it's windy. The wind dispersed some of the clouds and mist that covered the moon, and the moonlight fell, but it felt even colder. The wind sounded like someone's sobs, causing the nearby trees to sway. The lights of the security booth behind him were also out of sight, with only cold white moonlight and warm white street lights. As he slid down the road alone, Tang Micheng felt a chill on his back and couldn't help but move faster. They are all deceiving, they are all deceiving. Where can there be those strange things in this world? It's all because of the sentence Tang said before leaving. It's all because of Tang Jin. If only she hadn't come back. If she doesn't come back, huh? Oh my, did you just come home, kid? This sound is mixed in the wind. Tang Micheng stumbled and his skateboard flew out from under his feet, almost falling down. With a thud. The skateboard collided with the street lamp post. Are you okay? The woman's voice is worried, getting closer and closer. I'm scared to death. It's dark, can't you suddenly speak up over there? Tang Micheng stabilized his body and rolled his eyes before finally seeing the woman who was originally standing on the roadside. She smiled, and the light fell on her face, all white. She is a young stranger woman. Seeing the person clearly, Tang Micheng's relaxed mood suddenly became tense again. There are several ancestral homes in this community, and most of the neighbors know each other. But he has never seen this woman before. Sorry, I came back with my boyfriend to meet my parents. I was a bit nervous and came out to take some air, and then I saw you. Tang Micheng quietly glanced at the shadow under her feet again, feeling a little relieved. He said, it's all because he thinks too much. Then be careful. He casually spoke and lifted his foot to pick up his skateboard. The shadow of that woman enveloped his head as he crouched down. The phone fell out of the pocket. Child, I have some homemade candies here. I'll share the rest with my boyfriend's younger generation and give it to you as compensation for scaring you. Sugar. He likes sweet things the most, but his family is not willing to give him more, so it's not impossible to accept them. But he froze in an instant after seeing the shadow next to him. Didn't this woman just stand under the street lamp? Why are you standing by your side in the blink of an eye? Is her walking speed a bit too fast? Pinch the phone tightly in your hand, recognize your face, and the screen lights up. 8 o'clock. 05. Tang Micheng put back his phone, boldly stepped on the skateboard and stood up straight, then turned around and glanced at the woman's face. She maintained the same movement, handing him a few colorful candies. However, laughing. Especially fake. It's like a gray plaster, with a smile chiseled out by someone. He felt guilty inside, but his face pretended to be calm, and little Fatty's face was full of disgust. No need, I'm not a little girl. I don't like sweet food. He gathered strength under his feet and instantly kicked out, and the skateboard flew out like an arrow. The woman's final voice was chilling. Lying, you clearly love sweet food the most. Shit. What thing? Tang Micheng suppressed his voice tightly and headed towards home. Is it so evil? What are you running for? The voice of a woman follows closely. The wind made Tang Micheng tremble, and it turned out that he had already sweated profusely. Asterisk on the other side, in the living room of the Tang family mansion. Tang Jin sat on the sofa holding hot sweet milk, his little head tilted back, looking at the clock on the wall. She sighed softly and took another sip of milk. The warm and sweet taste made the little girl squint her eyes comfortably. Indeed, children are more likely to disobey. The woman seemed to be teasing him. This road seems to have no end in sight. Surrounded by unchanging streetlights and houses, it seemed as if there was no one around. Tang Micheng, aren't you your favorite candy? The eerie laughter accompanied the woman's voice, which was also erratic, like a combination of the howling wind. The skateboard, which was originally moving rapidly under his feet, suddenly stopped. Due to inertia, Tang Micheng fell off the skateboard and rolled forward several times. He doesn't care what happens to his forehead, knees, and arms, he turns over and supports himself before running. Help! Help! The bloody smell seemed to further stimulate the unknown thing. The wind is howling even louder, the night is over and the sky is bright, but now it is clear that it is night. He fell to the ground and moved back little by little, his face showing fear. Still the woman with a fake smile, her face did not change at all. In an instant, she approached him, raised her hand, and leaned towards his face, her pitch-black hair, like a steel wire, hooked directly around his neck and threw him at the edge of the bridge. Tang Micheng widened his eyes in fear, seeing that the bridge stood at least 5 meters tall. If he was thrown out by this hair, I must hang myself under this bridge. Telling you to leave your house at 8 o'clock is not to make you hesitate outside for a few more minutes. Tang Micheng closed his eyes tightly, but felt that the thing that was gripping his neck was soft and warm. Tang Micheng suddenly opened his eyes, and a small object had already hung on his chest, blocking the precarious fence. Tang Jin wrapped his hand around his neck and brushed the dust against the fence. He met a pair of pitch-black eyes, her small face bulging, but her body emitting an exceptionally pleasant smell of sweet milk. Let you disobey me, look. Is it about to end? Tang now. She was still wearing home clothes, stepping on slippers, and holding a brush in her hand. Where is this? Why did you say that when I went out? You made this thing. He was trembling with fear and was greatly impacted. He crawled into the arms of his younger sister, who was several years younger than him, smelling the sweet milk on her body and feeling particularly secure. The grievance burst out suddenly, and tears rolled down his face. I was wrong, can't I still? I shouldn't have disobeyed. I've been working hard to go back. Can you let me go back to a normal world? I don't want to die yet, I also want to drink sweet milk. Crying without any backbone, there was no arrogance in the past that shook Tang Jin's face. On the contrary, Tang Jin was startled and wanted to let go, but he held on to him tightly. Tang Jin pondered for a while before speaking in the tense eyes of the other person. Actually, I think sweet milk is just average, but Grandpa said drinking more can help you grow taller. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Super Stability and Super Reliability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Super Stability and Super Reliability. The problem doesn't seem to be here. Tang Micheng opened his mouth, feeling a bit confused. Tang Jin was still thinking about it, but suddenly pulled him sideways, his small body soaring into the air, and the dust in his hand fiercely struck towards the back. A muffled sound. It's so hard. Tang Jin grabbed Tang Micheng's collar and threw him behind, landing neatly, looking at his own little brush. What is so hard? Tang Micheng fell to the ground again, but this time, there was only one idea in his mind. This sister must have learned Kung Fu in Mount Sanqing. The sky suddenly darkened. Summer insect calls came from around, and the howling wind disappeared without a trace. Before Tang Micheng could relax, he saw Tang Jin standing up and attacking the dark figure who was planning to escape under the night light. He watched as the woman was pressed under Tang Jin's body and her face was swollen and bruised by the dust. No soft hands. Finally, it transformed directly into a square object, as if attempting to squeeze into the brick and tile structure of the nearby house wall. But the next second, he was swept away by Tang Jin's dust and suddenly thrown out. This time falling under the street lamp, Tang Micheng saw it clearly. It is a square stone carving, with a slightly broken circle around it, but one can see the original sculpture of a crane sending longevity. Tang Micheng widened his eyes, he knew this stone carving. It was an antique with a good meaning that his cousin Wei Han found out from somewhere. It was given to his grandfather on his 75th birthday. The dust in Tang Jin's hand has already been chopped down. A click that made one's teeth ache. The cracks extended inch by inch from the dust, and fine powder rustled down, eventually breaking into several pieces. A sturdy stone carving, weathered wind and rain, but in the end, under the hands of a 5.5-year-old child, it failed 3 moves and shattered into 3 halves. What kind of strength is this? Or some acrobatics? Dust and shatter stones. Tang Micheng swallowed a mouthful of water, and the wound on his body suddenly started to ache. Hiss. He took a deep breath. Tang Jin had already exhaled her little hands and walked slowly over, seeming to dislike the slippers hindering her performance. Her little feet kicked in place, childish. Do you want to wait for me here? I'll go find the butler's grandfather and call to take you to the hospital. No, 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 I'm going with you. I don't want to be here by myself. What is Tang Jin in front of you? Following her is much safer than staying here alone. He limped and hugged his skateboard in his arms, automatically pulling Tang Jin's hand, and carefully glanced at the broken and indistinguishable stone carving. What was that just now? The monsters produced inside the stone carvings. Tang Jin pulled him home and didn't forget to explain to him. Some things can last for a long time, and by chance, they can form monsters, which are the lowest level of demons and spirits. Grandpa fell ill because of them. They shouldn't have such great power and harmful intentions, but we don't know what their chance is. We need to follow this line to investigate. So, demons, spirits, and so on. Are they actually existing in this world? So why did you know I was going to have an accident at noon? Can't you just say a few more words and I won't go out? Woo-woo. He spoke in a voice full of grievances and tears, and how come such a loud voice doesn't seem to be heard around? At noon, you start to gradually diffuse a blue and black aura from the tip of your nose to your forehead, which is about to cause an accident. There will be a disaster of blood and light. Counting the time, from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., your yin energy is at its peak. If you touch your pocket again, I will stuff something in your pocket at noon, so as not to lose my life. As for the people around you who cannot hear, it is because you have long been in the world of monsters. Feeling in his pocket, there was actually a gray and somewhat broken triangular talisman paper. Tang Micheng felt that what Tang Jin said was even more mysterious. He couldn't understand Tang Jin's milky explanation, but it didn't stop him from knowing it was true. You think she's talking nonsense, but in fact, she's a big shot. She's telling the truth. Yap QAQ. After taking 2 steps, Tang Jin stopped and looked up at him, feeling quite proud. It's okay, don't be afraid. I'll protect you. I'm a reliable thief. The pillars of the Sanqing Taoist temple are not just empty names, they have been tried and agreed upon. The reliable pillar knocked on the door. Grandpa Butler. Let's quickly take our brother to the hospital. He's not obedient and his injuries are not serious. Tang Chuang has been busy lately. The originally agreed upon partners, even if they pay a penalty for breach of contract, will terminate the cooperation with them. The people below don't know what kind of evil they have fallen for, and the basic plan often goes wrong. It's getting late, and the internal atmosphere of Tang technology is serious. Due to frequent mistakes at work, they have to work overtime to correct them. No one dares to say one more word and provoke the boss to anger. Tang Chuang took off his frameless glasses, pressed his temples, looked at his phone, and thought that the little brat came over this afternoon to urge him to have a mental illness and go see him quickly. Tang Jin looks very well behaved, but it's not easy to fool. If she knew she had been busy for another day and promised to go and see in the afternoon, but didn't go, she wouldn't be angry. Excuse me. Tang Chuang held his phone, sent a message, stood up, picked up his coat with the back hand, and walked out. It's too late now. Do you think I'm an employee under your command? I'm here for a medical examination at this time. Are you sick? A refined man in his 40s was wearing a white coat, holding a blue folder in his hand. He lazily yawned and looked up at the guy who suddenly messaged about for a medical examination. The two are classmates and brothers who grew up together. The health of the Tang family is the responsibility of his hospital. I just stepped off the operating table an hour ago. Do you know how complex and difficult our brain surgery is? Just give me a simple check and give me a report. Tang Chuang took off his watch. The little girl at home brought it back and insisted that I come to inspect it. She was too busy during the day and was afraid that she would be unhappy when she returned. Yoha, your little girl has been brought back. I can't tell, Brother Chuang, you're still a daughter slave. Fart. Daughter slave. How could it be? The man hummed and laughed. Get it. Old and proud. Arrange Tang Chuang to lie down. The man yawned and operated the instrument. Check each item one by one. He looked at the data generated on the computer and was still a bit distracted. Thinking about what kind of late-night snack to eat after serving this inhumane animal, and also bringing some for his wife. The pediatrics department is so busy, and she probably feels exhausted today. As for Tang Chuang's physical examination report. With Tang Chuang's ability to knock down a cow's body shape, he has been checked multiple times and is the healthiest in the Tang family. What can happen? That is to make an order and ask him to go back and coax his daughter. Thinking this way, he suddenly straightened up, his gaze fixed, his smile restrained, and his eyebrows furrowed. Tang Chuang finished his inspection and walked out of the examination room, picking up his phone and watch. Zhang Yi, have you printed out the order yet? Chuang Gu. The man's tone was serious, staring at the computer carefully, and then looking up, there was no smile on his face. This may not be a problem that a simple check can solve. Reading instructions, first published in 10,000 words, this is a mysterious and cute treasure article. The background of the entire text is fictional, including various talismans, spirits, diseases, etc. Do not delve into it. 5.5-year-old big shot Mengbao paired with a calm and high-ranking young master, with a CP and a warm pet healing article. It takes 2 months before and after opening the book, 1 month of brainstorming and discussion, and more than a month of overwriting. Respect the author's achievements, speak politely, and without valid evidence, plagiarize and blacklist without any reason. Also, please do not talk about Qing in other cultural contexts. The rules for the book review section are managed by this book and published in the book review section, including long-term activities. Interested parties can participate. Welcome friendly babies to join the comments and vote on Qing's homepage. The quality of the article is good. If you don't like the type of article, you can make another appointment in the future. It is very important to climb the list for new books, which determines the length and serialization time of this article. We are looking for 5-star comments, recommendation votes, monthly votes, and chapter reviews. Let's work together to climb the list. Love your writing skills. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. It's so easy to be soft and obedient just by looking at it. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6. It's so easy to be soft and obedient just by looking at it. The clock sways, the greenery sways, in the mansion. The family doctor rushed over to roughly examine Tang Miqing's injury. There is no obvious fracture. But this time he fell too hard and was unsure if there were any bone fractures. After simple disinfection and treatment, the wound that was still bleeding had to go to the hospital for X-rays. Tang Miqing's face was bruised from falling, but the pampered little chubby guy didn't cry and stared at Tang Jin with red eyes. Feeling both aggrieved and pitiful. Wherever Tang Jin went, his eyes followed, like a puppy seeking a sense of security after being kicked hard by someone. The usually serious old man was also startled by these two children. He quickly arranged various things and planned to take Tang Miqing to the hospital to take photos. I want my sister to accompany me today. Tang Miqing spoke in a low voice, trembling as he made his request to embrace his thighs. Can you see for yourself what time it's? Sister doesn't need to sleep, right? The old man frowned. Did you forget that sister only arrived by plane today? She didn't look good before, but now she knows how good she is. Tang Miqing. QAQ, don't curse anymore, the child knows it's wrong. The child is blind. Give the child another chance to survive. Tang Jinzheng rubbed his big eyes drowsily, his round cat pupils shining with a hint of water. And you too. The old man was also anxious and became angry, feeling scared in his heart. He reached out and rubbed Tang Jin's little face, thinking seriously, but his voice involuntarily softened. Even if it's safe in the community, how dare you go out at night? Looking back at the scene on the surveillance footage where this half-person tall cub used its own small brush to hook the door lock and then slipped out, the old man was still very scared. Tang Jin's rubbed face was crumpled into a ball, and he was still holding his own floating dust in his arms. With one small hand, he tried to stop the old man's rubbing action, but Xuanmen defended himself. That's because my brother is not obedient. I went to save him. If I didn't go, he wouldn't have just fallen and bruised like this. Tang Miqing nodded fiercely, describing what had just happened with confusion. What kind of stone-carving demon? Almost strangled on the bridge. Where are there bridges around here? Mr. Tang is almost laughing in anger. At noon, we still looked at each other's eyes, not their eyes, not their noses. Now, we're venting through one nostril. The car arrived, and Tang Miqing breathed a sigh of relief as he watched Tang Jin follow in. The car seat was a bit high, and her two calves were swaying back and forth in the air. Her dirty clothes had already changed, and the little bald thief was shining brightly. Her slender arms were marked with small red bumps. The night is calm, the clouds partially cover the moon, and summer insects hum. Outside the car was a grandfather who was still recovering from an injury, being supported step by step towards the side of the car. Tang Miqing already had pain on his body. Looking at his grandfather's elderly figure, he felt the silence around him, and his eyes were sour and unbearable. He lowered his head, and the chubby boy who had been beaten by society looked like a withered mushroom. Fingers carefully grabbed Tang Jin's hand. My younger sister, can I still be saved? I'm not afraid of death. I just haven't been filial to my grandfather, haven't made any contributions to my country, I'm only 9 years old this year. Requesting rescue. Tang Jin turned his head, blinked his big cat eyes, and spoke honestly in a milky voice, I don't know. The little chubby man trembled. The soft and cute Tuanzi took a big breath and said, in 100 years, they will all be buried. Children should be obedient and not afraid. He also gave him a serious pat on the head. Smiling sweetly, soft, and glutinous, looking obedient him. The top-level ward of the hospital. Tang Chuang just finished a series of checks and changed into comfortable clothes. The tall man lost some elite aura, his long eyelashes drooping, and he didn't do anything else while holding his phone, but his profile was inexplicably soft. On the small coffee table, there are some examination reports lying paralyzed. High-risk cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases awaiting investigation. The ward door was pushed open. Zhang Yi's face has improved a lot compared to before, but his eyebrows are still furrowed. Chuang Gu, it's a bit dangerous. There are signs of cerebrovascular disease. Fortunately, you came for an examination today, combined with medication treatment. Recently, you have been paying attention to diet, rest, and relaxation, which can almost relieve you to the best state. As long as this disease occurs once, the sequelae cannot be eliminated. Your body is now on the brink of onset, and in just one more day, you may not be able to control it. He approached and smiled, patting Tang Chuang's shoulder. Hey, your daughter is really your little lucky treasure. There are only a few people in the entire Yun country who can detect heart and brain diseases at this stage. Relax and rest in the hospital for 2 days. Health is more important than business. But Tang Chuang looked up with a somewhat conflicted expression. He glanced at Zhang Yi and hesitated to speak. Zhang Yi was well aware that people who usually have no minor illnesses or disasters suddenly tell him that there are significant health risks, which may not be acceptable to him. You really don't have to worry. Do you think? Is fortune-telling metaphysics true in this world? The voices of both of them rang out simultaneously. Zhang Yi. Ah. Tang Micheng went for further examination, and now Tang and his grandfather are resting in the lounge. Mr. Tang only underwent a physical examination here a while ago, but the results were not very good. Elderly people have aging organs, and a fall that breaks their balance can easily lead to decadence. It's too late now, and the doctors and nurses couldn't help but worry and came to check a few times. Hey! The doctor stared at the instrument screen and tested the old man several times, his eyes surprised. Old man, today is the medicine you take regularly and in moderation, isn't it? The doctor put away the equipment with a happy expression on his face and said, the situation has improved. Both the heart and various functions have been much stronger than before, indicating that you are gradually recovering. You are still healthy when you are old. Keep a good mood, eat light and rest well. Watching your granddaughter get married is definitely not a problem. Maybe you can even hold your great-granddaughter. The old man was also extremely surprised. I said how strong I am today. The butler smiled happily and said, I need to quickly tell the young masters this good news. Tang sat obediently in front of his grandfather, holding his hand and tilting his little head. The old man scattered the dust that covered his eyes, and the black aura that was supposed to be connected on his face gradually dissipated, bringing disaster and blessings. The little boy raised his pale face with a reserved expression. There is a soft and obedient little pride. Don't cry for me here, don't you just want money? This is the hospital, quiet. The sound came from the corridor. What's going on outside? Just had a car accident and got injured. The doctor put away his things, frowned, and said, the injury is quite serious. He has been rescued, and now it should be the family members who are communicating with the driver who caused the accident. Tang Jin suddenly looked up. The overhead light flickered very discreetly twice. Tang Jin jumped off the chair and said, Grandpa, I'll go see if my brother is okay. The doctor also walked over and said, Old man, you happen to have another careful examination. We need to refill your medicine. The old man nodded and asked the butler to take Tang Jin. As soon as you leave, the noise becomes louder. The people who are surrounded in a circle. A woman wearing coarse linen clothes was crying and howling on the ground, while the man was blocking the path of 2 young people. They are all in their 20s. With a helpless expression, I was just passing by to see someone to the hospital, and I even helped to cover the emergency fee. We can negotiate to find the driver who caused the accident. What are you doing to stop me? Tang Jin looked at another person and frowned. With 3 white eyes exposed, a crooked nose, and a red veil like drunkenness in his eyes, he is a generation of treacherous and devilish tales that have not ended well. He took out his cigarette box and was about to pick it up. Tell me, how much does it cost? If you're not dead, I won't give you the price if you're dead or private. The first shift is around noon, and the next shift is around 12 o'clock. Ah Ching adjusts his schedule and tries to update everything as much as possible at midnight, starting to climb the new book list, seeking comments, recommendations, monthly tickets, and chapter reviews from Babies Love Your Pen Refills Ananla. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Do good deeds, do not ask about the future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Do good deeds, do not ask about the future. This statement is sharp and unpleasant to hear. Rong Yinghui was just passing by to do something good, but who would have thought of making it so complicated? The noise made his head buzzing. People keep coming and going in the hospital hallway, and the lights in the emergency room are on and off at the end of the hallway, determining one's life or death. He raised his hand and stopped the other person from lighting a cigarette. This is a hospital, smoking is not allowed in public places. The man got angry and shook off his hand, chuckling. Damn it, who are you? You dare to interfere with me? The family members next to him were still crying, and an elderly man's eyes turned around, crying and shouting. 500,000, no, I want 1 million to have sex with you, otherwise we won't mediate with you. Let you go to jail. My granddaughter. The doctor came out of the ward to stop it. This is the hospital, don't make any noise, don't make any fuss. Where are the family members? They came over to sign. The situation has changed again just now, and they are critically ill. They came over to inform you of the details. A short side, the world is full of various forms. Surrounded by people whispering and lamenting their wrongdoing. When the little girl who was injured in the car accident was rescued, no one went in to watch and argued outside about the price to be given for issuing a letter of understanding privately. Tang Miching was brought back, wrapped in bandages all over his body, looking pitiful. The pampered little chubby guy turned into a chubby quail, afraid that there might be something else in the hospital that would take his life during the period of Tang Jin's strong yin energy. What's going on over there? Holding on to the big shot's thigh, Tang Miching breathed a sigh of relief. I'm deceiving people. Tang Jin blinked his cat's eyes and pointed to the crying old lady, revealing in a soft voice, I want to use my granddaughter's life to exchange for money to buy a house for my grandson, but now that I'm doing well in my calculations, I won't have a peaceful sleep in the future. There was a lot of low-pitched discussion around, but Tang Jin's soft voice had a particularly milky texture, and he suddenly poked the other person's pain spot. The old lady's face flashed with anger, turning her head and cursing loudly. What's selling granddaughter's life? How do we talk? We're victims. My granddaughter was bumped into and I cried like this. What else do you want me to do? Nowadays, dolls speak so maliciously and curse people. Do you have any tutoring? Damn it, how can you talk, old and immortal? Tang Micheng is now in front of Tang Jin, who is used to having a bad temper. He immediately rolled his eyes and cursed back without thinking about it. The half-aged boy just cursed and retreated behind his sister, like a quail, lacking momentum. I always tell the truth, said the soft and glutinous Tang Jin, with her cat pupils pitch black as she raised her eyes. You know exactly what you're thinking. You use blood-stained money to build a house, and you're not afraid of ghosts searching at night when you live in it. The old lady suddenly choked up with guilt and couldn't speak. She did intend to take this 1 million yuan and go back to build a house for her grandson, but no one else knew about it. How could she say so confidently? That's also true. It said that I feel sorry for my granddaughter, but I've been thinking about that 1 million from beginning to end. The little girl is critically ill again. She said she's 16 years old, but when I pushed her forward, I looked at her frail and said she's 12 or 13 years old. I believe it. There were also kind-hearted people passing by who brought the little girl to the hospital but were stopped and refused to leave. They insisted that they had hurt her again while moving and wanted her to compensate. The sound of discussion was piercing, like a needle prick. The old lady suddenly sat on the ground, pointing at Tang Jin and crying. Is there any reason left? Let this yellow-haired little girl bully me, this poor old lady. The wealthy second generation who caused the accident impatiently threw down a check for 1 million yuan. Despite his gloomy expression, no one looked down on him and turned around to leave. Without waiting for the butler's grandfather to take action, Rong Yinghui had already sidled in front of Tang Jin and said, "Speak well when you speak. If you make any more unreasonable noise, I will call the police." Seeing that he may also be a formidable person, this talent has settled down a bit and has unexpectedly received $1 million check, plus Tang Jin's statement. In the end, only a reluctant one was left to sign the critically ill notice for the girl in the car accident, and the others quickly dispersed. What kind of person is that? He raised his hand and tugged at the collar of his hoodie, grumbling irritably. I've really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck lately. Complaining about bad luck. Within the scope of business. Tang Jin's little bald head shone brightly, and his small cheeks were soft and cute. Big brother, we met by fate. Have you been unlucky lately and everything has been going wrong? Why don't we calculate a hexagram for you now? All we need is this number. Master cannot hold on to wealth, and the Sanqing Taoist temple has always been the poorest in the Taoist sect. Houses and houses collapse, and chickens run away. Only donations that help each other can sustain it for a period of time. As a top pillar, she wants to earn money to support her family. She is no more famous in God than Mount Sanqing. We have arrived at Chengdu, and there is still a family to take care of, which needs to be opened by major clients. This one in front of me is very suitable for opening. The little girl's eyes lit up, and her soft face was filled with reserved sales. Come on, count one. Ha! Rong Yinghui did not expect that this was what he saw as the 4 or 5-year-old girl opened her mouth. Which family promotes feudal superstition to children? And this dazzling, little light bulb, Rong Yinghui couldn't help but laugh or cry. Perhaps she is too cute. Saying such deceitful things is very gentle and cute. Is it my turn to suffer from a bloody disaster next sentence? Children can't watch those strange TV dramas. He looked at the butler's grandfather on the side as he spoke, somewhat disagreeing. After all, Tang Jin returned from the Taoist temple, and the old butler didn't react much. He only felt that his young lady looked so cute and rare. It was Tang Micheng who became unhappy upon hearing these words. His sister has real abilities. Not deceiving people. And Tang Jin gently tugged at his hand, shaking his little head. Speaking of serious matters, Zaichuanzi takes it seriously and his pitch-black cat pupils are clean. Let me give you a free ride today. When you go home tonight and leave the hospital, remember to take the main road and don't waste those 2 minutes. Rong Yinghui didn't take it to heart at all. He looked at Tang Jin's small face and couldn't help but lightly poke. The little brat didn't recognize me and tilted his head. If you want to come find me again, let's go to the Xuanmen ancient courtyard community. In the end. But do good, don't ask about your future. Walking on the main road, Rong Yinghui was still thinking about the place where Tang Jinbao was located, the gathering place of famous wealthy families in Chengdu. I don't know which wealthy family it is, but they have taught the children something. Turning ahead, a bicycle came over and the wheels slipped. The person suddenly fell to the ground, and the sound startled him. He quickly went to help. The phone fell to the ground with a click as he bent down, and the tempered film brush burst open. Refusing the gratitude of the other party for offering him a film, Rong Yinghui arrived at the agreed place with the person and couldn't help but curse softly, is this still lucky? I can't help but encounter any unlucky thing. It's hard to repay a good person. It's late at night, the shadows of the trees sway, and the moonlight is obscured. In the extremely dark night, the lights of the surrounding small shops appear brighter, and only about 50 meters away, there is a small shop covered with film. The person who picked him up hasn't arrived yet. Looking at the annoying phone screen, he lifted his foot and walked towards the small shop. Just walked out 10 meters. A gust of wind and waves hit, as if to scalp someone. Bang! I didn't finish playing at noon, so I improved it a bit. Today's 4,000-word update is over babies. Remember to leave a message for Aching's voting ticket, asking for monthly ticket recommendations, stamps, comments, and comments. Love your pen refills. Goodbye at midnight. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Strong Survival Desire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Strong Survival Desire. Rong Yinghui froze and turned his head. Less than a meter behind me, a tall advertising board made of steel bars fell from a nearby high-rise building and was shattered. It was just hitting the spot where he was originally standing. That force even knocked down the bus stop next to it. He unconsciously swallowed a mouthful of water. Young man. Oh, are you okay? Didn't you hit it? How could this deadly thing suddenly fall down? It's too dangerous, isn't it? The sound was too loud, and nearby merchants rushed out. Seeing that Rong Yinghui was less than 1 meter away from the billboard, they all took a deep breath. Rong Yinghui, who was already somewhat frightened, was welcomed by enthusiastic vendors into the small shops around him. He took 2 sips of the hot water brought by the shop owner before slowly regaining his senses. I was startled to feel a cold sweat all over me. Recalling what Tang Jin said to him at the hospital. If he doesn't take the main road, don't help people, and the tempered film won't break, he won't think about applying the film. Instead, he will stand in place and be hit hard by the brand. Where did the child say she lived? What's going on? The man in a black suit outside the door spoke in a slightly panicked tone, clearly seeing the billboard outside and hearing discussions from the surrounding vendors. Seeing Rong Yinghui huddled in someone else's fast food restaurant, holding a disposable paper cup in one hand and tightly gripping his phone in the other, he was actually a young man in his 20s who had just returned from studying outside. Even if he pretended to be calm, he still panicked at this moment. Upon hearing the sound, Rong Yinghui looked up, his small heart beating vigorously, and his curly hair seemed to droop due to his owner's misfortune. With pitiful eyes, he looked over and saw a big boy waiting for his parents to pick him up. The driver hurriedly walked over. Young master, sir has come to pick you up. A black luxury car stopped not far from where the billboard landed. The driver went to handle the matter afterwards. The billboard was not firmly fixed and almost hit the young master of their Rong family for no reason. Someone has to explain this matter. Rong Yinghui, still wilting with fear at the moment, got into the car, hung his head down, and cautiously called out. Uncle. The rear seat is against the window. A small table is placed on the back of the chair with a computer, which contains various complex curve data. Are you scared? If someone hears the voice of the subsequent response, they may cast a curious gaze. Just because although the voice is calm, it is particularly childish. Upon closer inspection, the person in the seat had delicate and beautiful eyebrows and eyes, slender eyelashes, and was dressed in a simple black Tang suit. He had a slim physique and a slightly pale and sickly face, with several circles of dark brown Buddha beads wrapped around his wrist, making his skin even fairer. The young man who was referred to as uncle by this young man in his 20s turned out to be a young boy who was only 8 or 9 years old, with red lips and white teeth. The boy in his 20s genuinely regards him as an elder, and he relies heavily on his words, even choking up in the end. He has only been back home from college for a month, and all the things that have happened are extremely unfortunate. As he spoke, he was also quite aggrieved, suspecting whether he was in conflict with God. Talking about the little girl he met in the hospital, he was so scared that his words were mixed up, but Rongqing still extracted key information from it. Are you saying that without that little girl, you might have been smashed under the billboard? Rong Yinghui nodded wildly. Rongqing turned his head in confusion. Unlike others, he knew many things about the circle of feng shui mystics in the divine capital, but he had never heard of such a small feng shui mystic. It's just that Rong Yinghui recounted his unfortunate experience, with frequent disasters within a month, which is definitely abnormal. Uncle, can you enter the Xuanmen ancient courtyard community? Take me there, please QAQ. Find the magical little treasure that the face thief is good at poking and save the unlucky child. The mischievous little baby with a mischievous face is currently crossing the tribulation. Tang Chuang originally intended to inform his family that he couldn't go back in the next 2 days, but he learned from Zhang Yi about the fact that all the young and old members of the Tang family had come to the hospital. At this moment, the tall man was squinting his eyes dangerously, pinching the little baby's cheek with one hand and shaping it into a little goldfish. At night, open the door and run out by yourself. Tang Jin blinked his big cat eyes, while Xiaonain's cheeks were not very clear due to being pinched. Dad, I'm very reliable, don't worry. Before the old man could finish his physical examination, Tang Miqing huddled in a corner, trying to disguise himself as a mushroom. Upon hearing this, he wanted to express his agreement. It is indeed very reliable, super brave. Children should sleep well when it's time. Tang Chuang's malicious voice was intended to instill in her a sense of crisis. Such a big little thing, I still know how to open the door and run out at night. Even with the most careful care, there may be some negligence. If anything goes wrong in this negligence, no one in the Tang family can afford it. Before he could finish speaking, the soft little cutie hugged his neck and leaned in to rub against it. Dad. When causing trouble, he is super brave, but when dealing with the aftermath, he is just a little coquettish. After this shout, who can still hold fire? When the old man came up, he saw his chubby grandson huddled on the corner sofa, rarely sitting upright and obedient. On the hospital bed, Tang Chuang hugged his little girl. The man's face was still the cold and terrifying marshal of the shopping mall, but his gaze was extremely soft. Xiaonai had already been coaxed to sleep by him, her face pink and plump, her delicate lips opening and closing, extremely cute. The old man picked up Tang Chuang's inspection report and carefully flipped through it, feeling a bit scared. Dad, regarding today and why I suddenly came to check, I need to talk to you about these things. Another corner of the city. A 16 or 17-year-old boy was making a twisted phone call. I gave you a fixed price of 1.7 million yuan, but what happened? Rong Yinghui has returned safely and unharmed, and has been asking me to wait for a month now. You don't do anything with the money. Your title as the first feng shui master needs to be questioned. Employers, don't worry. A hoarse voice came from the other end of the phone. I have already calculated that he was lucky enough to get out of trouble today because he met a benefactor on the way. He is considered lucky. You should know that this kind of person who enjoys doing good things has many variables in their destiny, and they need to take it step by step. When his good fortune dissipates, even the heavenly King Laozi will not be able to save him at that time, and the benefactor who helps him will suffer consequences for himself. The feng shui master didn't know that Xiaonai was powerful today, and he still made a firm promise here. The young man received a guarantee before he was satisfied and disconnected the phone. The night is pitch black, and the surroundings are quiet. The shadows of trees and vines sway. Despite the scorching summer, being in the pitch black makes one's back inexplicably cool. The young man had just finished talking about these divine and ghostly things, and he was already feeling guilty and harmful to people's hearts. Of course, he himself was also afraid of these things. He deleted the call record and quickly left. But I didn't notice that there was a deeper shadow in the shadow, gradually solidifying. Always hiding in the dark. Fixed on watching him. In the early morning of summer, the day breaks early. Rongqing has been different from ordinary children since childhood. He is calm and intelligent, and his daily routine is also extremely disciplined. He has washed up well and plans to do a simple morning exercise before going to wake up his eldest nephew. Just as the door was pushed open, Rong Yinghui, who was already squatting at the door, suddenly looked up with pitiful eyes. Uncle, should we start now? Extremely strong desire for survival. 2000, the subsequent modifications take too much time. I will still try my best to send the next chapter around noon. Our ranking on the list is too low, babies. Please leave a comment, recommend monthly tickets, and strive to make it to the top to avoid premature death. Love, your pen refills calmly. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The meaning is not very good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The meaning is not very good. The Rong family is an old and powerful family with hundreds of years of history, constantly plagued by deceit and deceit. In recent generations, Rong Yinghui has also emerged as an honest child. It's natural that he couldn't sleep due to a month-long series of accidents and almost dying yesterday. But, Rong Qing crouched down and let out a slow sigh, then said in a warm voice, Rong Yinghui, do you know what time it is now? No one visits others at 6 o'clock in the morning. You will be beaten by the magical little treasure in your mouth, you know. The sunrise rises, and the morning light falls. Sitting at the dining table, Xuanmen held a cake and half squinted her cat's eyes, letting the two greatest desires of human cubs, hunger and drowsiness, tug at her eyelids. The light golden sunshine seemed to favor her a bit more, and was reflected brighter by the small bald head without bias. Tang Chuang stayed in the hospital for observation. Tang Micheng was frightened last night and had several nightmares, but he hasn't woken up yet. On the dining table, there is only Mr. Tang and Xiao Naijin. Thinking about the stone carvings and fragments that the servant went to clean up in the morning, as well as the things Tang Chuang discussed with him last night. The old man rarely wakes up refreshed and quickly accepts this matter. Explores so much and do what? This is his family's obedient and sensible treasure, capable of protecting people, and possessing such skills. Others may envy it. Ouch, dear treasure, take a quick congee and stop choking. You don't have to go to work or go to school. What are you doing up so early? You need to sleep a little more, and children will grow taller when they are full. The old man is both rare and heartbroken. Tang Jin yawned a little and looked at his grandfather with a cute and mysterious face, saying, Grandpa, this morning, we're going to have a big client today. The words have just finished. The door was buckled. The butler didn't come back long and was a bit surprised. Master, the younger generation of the Rong family said they came to visit. Tang Jin rubbed his small hands and propped up his body. The big order is coming. Mr. Tang never expected to see Rongqing at his doorstep. The young boy was dressed in Tang dynasty attire, with a gentle and steady smile, and his demeanor was completely free from the mischievous behavior of children aged 8 or 9. It was an elegant and light demeanor that seemed to have traveled through time and space, strolling from the Republican era. I haven't seen the old man for a long time. I heard that your body is gradually improving, and I feel happy in my heart. The Tang family is a wealthy family that has been prosperous for 3 or 4 generations. It can be called an old-fashioned family, but it cannot be compared to the Rong family. It is a serious and influential family that has been in power for hundreds of years. The two families usually have little contact, only a few times. The old man even politely said a few words of confusion. Tang Jin was led by the butler grandfather and walked out. Rong Yinghui, who had been following Rong Qing honestly, suddenly seemed to have seen a savior. But can you really call it a magical little baby or not? Do you still remember me, you? Tang Jin gathered his small hands, looked up, and said in a milky voice, Grandpa, you're here to find me. In the small living room. The little dim sum was put on the table, and the old man went out for a walk, with no one around to disturb him. Tang Jin tilted his small head and carefully examined Rong Yinghui's eyebrows and eyes. Rong Yinghui had just carefully recalled his misfortune of the past month, from stepping on feces when going out, to being hit with porcelain by someone, and finally almost falling victim to a high-altitude falling object. Fortunately, you reminded me of that sentence yesterday, otherwise I wouldn't be able to sit here today. Rongqing also looked at Tang Jin and was pondering. Xiaonai is now a little one, a cute and lovely bald head. Sitting on the sofa, the fluffy sofa seems unable to resist the temptation of the cute children, wanting to hide them in her arms. I am too young and well behaved, but in feng shui and mysticism, this age does not have an advantage. She shook her little head vigorously. I can only give some advice, but it was you who made the decision to save you. However, your recent bad luck is indeed not an accident, there are bad people at work. Rong Yinghui has a very good physique, and his eyebrows and eyes are clear. He is a kind-hearted and virtuous person who will have great achievements in the future. However, now that he is pure and upright, he has been worn out by disasters and has lost his vitality, starting to decline. It is clear that someone maliciously tampered with it. Rong Yinghui suddenly became nervous and said, "What should I do now? What will happen in the future?" Actually, you are lucky enough. If someone else were to be affected by such actions, they might not be able to hold on for a week. Fortunately, you have accumulated good deeds to protect yourself and meet me. She said as her gaze fell on Rongqing beside her, blinking. For the sake of your good looks, I can give you a test today. It's a bit cheaper, and I'll also give you a specially made talisman paper, as long as it's this number. Seeing Xiaonai's target fall on Rongqing, she raised her hand to ask for a price, and Rong Yinghui took a cold breath. Let's focus on him as a young man. Although he may seem gentle at a young age, he is actually too distant and polite towards others. If there are those who are not witty, they still have to climb up and see his bad temper. But this is a life-saving matter, uncle. Please, hold on, save your nephew's life. I'll take this money out of my lucky money. Okay. Before Rong Yinghui could finish speaking, he heard Rong Qing's voice, full of laughter. Rong Yinghui was somewhat surprised. Tang Jin nodded satisfied and said, "So let's take a word test first. Take a pen and paper, put it in front of Rong Yinghui, and write 2 words casually." The method of measuring characters is also used by some feng shui mystics, but there are only a few who can accurately measure it, and ordinary people dare not use it easily. Rong Yinghui thought for a moment and carefully wrote 2 words. Grind and exceed. Tang Jin frowned and said, "The meaning is not very good. Xuanmen is 2 people, widely covered. Sitting on the stone is like sitting in a car, and under the stone is like a mouth. If the tires are dry and flat, there will be a car accident. Mo doesn't make any sound, and it will kill people. However, Chow is even more urgent. To be frank, you are walking on the edge of the road, surpassing tomorrow." Tang Jin turned his head to look at him, with an expression on his face that you were about to lose. Is it just that the meaning is not good that everyone is going to be gone? Rong Yinghui shuddered and said, am I going to lose it? Uncle, wait until I take my inheritance. Upon hearing this, Rongqing couldn't help but raise his hand and pat him on the head, mixed with helplessness, saying, "You have a ghost's inheritance." Rong Yinghui, who was still a poor student, covered his head and said, yes. I can solve the problem, rest assured, I am reliable. This matter still needs to be handled by industry professionals. Just so she can see who's not holding their rice bowl and eating a decent meal, insisting on harming others. Do I still have any help? I'm not as skilled as the one who takes action against you, of course I am. Although I am pleased with Tang Jin's confidence and pride. But, Rong Yinghui, can you stop panting for such a big deal? It's not safe to ride now. When the sun is at its peak today, I'll follow you back to handle it at 1:30 p.m. Xiaonai takes her profession seriously when it comes to it. Then I glanced at my watch and then at the seat across from me. There was a very handsome and upright little brother with a unique destiny, but she liked his appearance. Good looking. Still the big spender. Xiaonai took a dim sum today, blinked her big cat pupil and handed it to Rongqing. Today's 4,000. It took a long time to make modifications in the middle. Remember to leave a vote message for Qing, babies. Strive to climb the list. See you around midnight. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 is about to fall short of seniority. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 is about to fall short of seniority. Rong Qin looks at the small dim sum delivered to her, and looks up with her smile. In the aspect of showing goodwill by manipulating people's hearts, it is true that this little cutie is tightly controlled. Not many people can refuse her. However, Rong Qin was actually a bit amused, thinking that it was probably because of his physique and age that the other party misunderstood him, thinking that he was a playmate of the same age and had a closer sense of closeness compared to the tall and sturdy Rong Yinghui. But Rongqing has never played with peers since childhood. But she never expected Xiaonai to speak now, her voice soft and sticky. If you haven't eaten breakfast well, you need to cushion it. Her gaze fell on the dark brown Buddha beads on his wrist. Later on, I didn't know what came to my mind. I squinted my big eyes and smiled, my two thin white calves swaying, sweet and cute. Little brother, you can also help me with your problem today. Don't worry, I'll keep you safe and worry-free. A small self-confidence and arrogance are even more likable. There are sweet and glutinous little dim sum at hand. Rong Qin looks at the sweet and glutinous little boy. The boy in Tang costume has a different temperament from others. He is stunned and immediately smiles, which is more beautiful than romantic. It is rare for a child of this age to get along well with Rongqing. Rong Yinghui is actually quite happy to see this scene. But there's a question, little brother. That's it, Pokémon. Are we in a generational gap? By the time Tang Miqing truly woke up, it was already past 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He didn't fall asleep all night last night, until the dawn light fell into the room and he was exhausted before falling asleep in a daze. The butler looked up at him coming down from upstairs. Young lady told me in the morning that you must not have slept at night. Why don't you ask for a day off to let you sleep more? Are you hungry now? I'll keep congee and meat pie warm for you. Tang Miqing nodded uneasily. He was frightened. He could dream of that pale ghost face at night with his eyes closed. If it weren't for Tang Jin being at home, he might not have been able to sleep during the day. At this moment, he calmed down a bit, and the little boy's awkward energy increased a bit, pretending to ask casually. Jin Mei. Cough, where is Tang Jin? This morning, a major client of the young lady came. Just now, the young lady went with the Rong family to handle matters and just left. Tang Miqing pursed the corners of his lips, looking at his wrapped hands and knees, and slowly moved down to eat. Halfway through the meal, Wei Yihan hurriedly entered the door. Sincerity, I heard you were injured. Are you okay? Auntie has already rushed back and is extremely worried. I came as soon as class was over. This is the cake I bought for you. The cake box on the table comes from his favorite brand he usually eats. The chubby boy hung his head, opened the cake box, replied, "It's okay," and then looked at Wei Yihan. Where did you get the stone carving you used to send to Grandpa for his birthday? I bought it from an antique store. I have a classmate who has connections and specially picked out the meaning. What's wrong with you today? Wei Yihan looked at him with concern, and every move seemed like he had been concerned and nervous about him in the past. Although that thing almost caused serious consequences, Wei Yihan was also unaware. Tang Miqing relaxed his guard and asked where the antique shop was before speaking in a muffled voice. That's not a good thing. It almost killed me and my grandfather. Don't go to that store with your classmates in the future. What's wrong with you? Did you hurt your head? Who said that to you? He was kind enough to help me pick things, but when he got into your mouth, it seemed like he was plotting to harm you. He also wanted to kill someone. It's just a stone carving from a crane that brings longevity. Wei Yihan finds it absurd. I experienced it firsthand and saw it with my own eyes. In the end, I was saved by Tang Jin and only left a small injury. Anyway, you don't want to go. Tang Jin. She's only 5 years old, what can she do? Those Taoist temples are used to deceiving people and money. Don't be fooled by her magic tricks. No, I have to tell my aunt. What did you tell my mom? Tang Micheng was extremely irritable. He had already settled his mind with her, but seeing her attitude, he stopped eating the cake and threw a small fork before going upstairs. Wei Yihan, who had not finished speaking, stood at the dining table, pinching his leather bag tightly with his fingertips. He looked at his back as he walked up, bit his lips, and his eyes turned red. Yesterday was not like this. Only 1 day later, Tang now asked Tang Micheng to speak for her. Wei Yihan's face was pure and clean, but at this moment, a faint layer of darkness appeared. The ancestral home of the Rong family is not adjacent to the ancestral home of the wealthy family. Since 100 years ago, it has been located in this area as a standalone Chinese-style courtyard. Carved beams and painted rafters, cornices, and plaques are hanging high. Looking at the structure from the outside, it is also full of years of wind and rain, and has become a melodious and grand ancient rhyme. There is also a square pond in the courtyard, and the surrounding town stones are all in the style of copper coins, reflecting the greenery. In the pond, the koi tail sways, gathering spirit and energy. It is unknown that it is a masterpiece that has gone through several generations of feng shui masters. Tang has seen many great things in the world, but he is still mesmerized by the luxury of this courtyard. No wonder these two have such strong financial luck, living in such a place all day. If she would have made a fortune. Little Milk Tuanzi was already held by Rongqing's hand and walked inside, her cat eyes wide open. The cerebellar pouch melon is shiny, like a little kitten that has been taken to a luxurious cat house and has never seen the world before. The place inside the house was large, and Rong Yinghui was eager to give it a try. He wanted to hug Tang Jin's seemingly soft little body, but he slowed down Rong Qing and looked at him with some suspicion of life as he led Tang Jin inside. If I hadn't insisted on hurting you, you wouldn't have had any accidents living in this place. Tang Jin took a soft breath and whispered in a low voice, fortunately, he is an obedient and honest person. If it were someone else, he would have disappeared long ago. Can you tell who's trying to harm me? Under the scorching sun, Rong Yinghui's forehead was sweating, and he couldn't figure out who he had offended. Your wealth palace is filled with a dark aura. It should be someone with a wealth and power relationship with you. It's just that the other party is doing something covert and handing it over to other feng shui masters. It's impossible to determine the specific relationship with you. Under the scorching sun, Tang Jin looked up at the dark aura of the Jinbo Palace on the other side that could not dissipate in the sunlight. He took out a small brush dust from his small cloth bag and hugged it in his arms. Let's go and take a look in your room. The young man in Tang costume, who was holding on to Xiao Naijin, stopped and looked up at the sunlight. It's a bit far away, he said. I'll hold you over, he said politely, leaning aside Rong Yinghui. Rong Yinghui's room is clean and tidy, with bright large windows that can see the green plants in the backyard. Tang landed and turned twice. Have you made any changes to the decorations in your room? What's the problem? Rongqing looked over. First of all, this bed has its tail facing the window, and you sleep with your face facing the window. The light directly falls on your face. Have you often woken up and become restless halfway through your sleep recently? This is a secret practice that can cause unexpected situations. Rong Yinghui opened his mouth wide and nodded repeatedly. A while ago, when the small building here was renovated, others in the family did indeed change his bed and had to relocate it. Rongqing's expression sank slightly, explaining. Tang Jin walked towards the window again. And outside the window. Revising and revising the text takes a lot of time. Qin carefully studies each chapter, and each chapter also adds a small 100 words to the word count. The next chapter will still be sent between noon and afternoon tomorrow. Babies, remember to leave a message for Qing's vote. Looking for recommended tickets, monthly tickets, chapter reviews, book reviews. We are currently in our 50s and need to work hard to climb the list. Give the baby pen refills good night, end of this chapter.